Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Nom.
So, in this episode, we're traveling back to the 80s. Traveling back to the 80s, more specifically 1989, to discuss a Disney classic, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Is this our first Disney and children movie? All wrapped up in one?
Something like that. I mean, we did talk about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but I don't know if that necessarily is
I don't think that's a
considered.
kids movie in my opinion. So I picked this movie because weirdly enough, this was probably one of my most watchable kids movie growing up. I enjoy kids movie where kids have to overcome difficult situations. You know, one of those is about the journey, not the destination. And
Yeah.
just in a weird way, from like Stand By Me, The Goonies. I think that Honey and Shrunk the Kids gets swept under the rug for a lot of this because I think that movie was really creative in his own way, and I thought it was really cool how they came up with it. So yeah, that's why I picked it.
The one thing about movies like this, especially Disney classics, is that there's always that childhood wonder you had when you first watched the movie,
Hmm.
like when you were younger, and then being able to see it now is whether or not to you do you still keep that childhood wonder when watching it, or are you able to kind of separate it from like how you enjoy movies now versus how you are now, how
Hmm.
you were then. So we'll see how it goes when we have that discussion about this movie. Because I'm kind of curious if you still kind of kept that childhood wonder of yours when you first watched this movie back in the day, or
Hmm.
if it just kind of stood the test of time,
Yeah.
and or to the point where now where you watch it and you're just like, well, that was dumb. Because I'm not gonna lie, I watched Pocahontas. I remembered it fondly when I was a kid, but when I watched it later on as an adult, I was just like, I picked apart so many things in that movie
Hmm.
because it drove me insane. So I'm hoping that I don't lose that same childhood wonder as I did back then for this particular movie. But
Uh,
let's see.
for me, for this movie, I kind of already expect what I was thinking I'm going to go in as, and I'm probably going to be correct what I think I'm going to believe in. I don't think this is the type of movie that would ruin the childhood because the movie's already weird enough. So I don't
Mhm.
know. Me personally, am I going to lose that edge? Because it's like that's if anything, I hope it's a lot weirder than I thought it was. Because I think that was the point of it. It's supposed to be this weird, kooky kind of things, and that's the thing I like about the old Disney stuff. It was just weird stuff, and I miss the weird Disney kind of, craziness that they did back
Right,
in the
correct.
'80s. And that's why, like, I think I don't know if I'm on the boat here, but I think this shows that '80s really was experimental for movies. They were just throwing crazy ideas at the wall and just see, okay, let's see what happens. So, yeah.
There you go. So we watched the trailer. What did you feel about it?
I think it just got what it needed to get across. Other than like, if you ever watch on YouTube, it's very small. You forget like, oh yeah, they're not widescreen. Very small, no pun intended, right? But I think that the trailer did a good job of showing enough where you're not being told everything. You get the premise of these kids getting shrunk. You know that they got thrown away, and they're trying to make it back to them. They're trying to get back to the machine to get big. I think it got it across. I don't think it spoiled too many things. That's it. I think the length was fine for what it was.
Yeah, I think the trailer, I mean, we say straightforward quite often, but I think it's kind of straightforward. Like it tells you it's about a wacky scientist who shrunk his kids by accident, who was a failure as a scientist for a while. Shrunk his kids by accident. These kids got thrown away in the trash and now they're on this big journey to get back home.
Okay.
Pretty simple there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it sets up for the idea that this is going to be a pretty solid journey, a pretty epic journey, or at least what we hope to be a really good journey.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think the trailer itself sold me on the idea of the movie. Even as a kid, even now, it's like, I would love to take my kids to watch it if I had kids. Take my dog instead then. I think it did a good job convincing me of wanting to watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a yes.
You're a
Uh,
yes there too.
yeah, hands down, hands yes. Kids are not kids. Like I said, it's weird. Let's. We're doing something different. So yeah. So
That's fair, man. All right, so we're gonna go watch the movie, and we're gonna discuss whether this movie stands the test of time after this break. And welcome back. hopefully you guys have been able to check out Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the 1989 Disney classic. It had a runtime of 93 minutes. Had a budget of $18 million and did a box office of 222.7 million dollars. This movie blew it out.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was one of the top grossing Disney movies that they had for a while. All right, Jeremy. So, hey, this movie started off with an animated intro, like legitimately an animated
Yeah,
full-on intro.
yeah.
And I'm not even talking about the short that was supposed to come on before this, which we didn't see on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
This animated intro. Did you wish that stuff that happened in this animated intro was actually in this movie?
Oh, hands down. And have you noticed that it does kind of give you that Ren and Stimpy kind of animation? Did you kind of got that
Yeah.
feel of it? Yeah. Yeah. That's how I got the feel of it. The animation definitely mislead where this movie could have gone, right? But no, that animation, I don't care. As a kid, that would hype you up, right? Just so, and that's a long intro. I would say it clocks you about 2 minutes, maybe more. And I really like that beginning. I really like how it went with it. Actually, to tell you the truth, it almost made me forgot that exists until I was like, there was a cartoon opening? I remember, but I don't remember that, So
Yeah, I don't either.
yeah, and I think, man, if I saw this when I was little in the theaters, I'd be so confused. I'm like, am I watching a live action or an animation movie, So, no, I wish that some of the stuff, and to answer your question, yeah, I wish some of that stuff that happened in there did happen in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say completely false advertisement. Like I'm just like, dude, this is absolutely false advertisement. None of this stuff happens in the actual movie. Like I was expecting like these guys once they got inside the house for like stuff to happen, but it never did. And we'll get to that.
And
We'll get to that conversation.
Oh,
But,
okay.
I mean, I was
All
kind
right.
of disappointed.
Okay. I'll wait to hold my thoughts on that. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's like I kind of got disappointed there, but
yeah.
let's talk about the setup of this movie. So I talked about the animated intro. We meet the kids.
Can I say
Nick-
one more thing? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
ruin
go
your
ahead.
flow. I just want to say one more thing. I want to just do a quick thing about the soundtrack because that intro, the music on that was very, very, very outspoken. It really spoke really loud, and that's from the music guy James Horner. And I had to look him up because I thought his music's so familiar, and I thought, like, did he do Super Mario Brothers the movie? And he didn't. But this guy, man, like this guy not only did that, but like in the animation front, he did American Tales, Land Before Time. From the other version, he did Braveheart, Titanic. His last score he ever did was Avatar before died in an airplane crash in 2015. So it's just crazy that this is one of his early movies that he got started, and man, that music was strong. It just had that dun 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 dun. It was just those horns were just screaming, and you started hearing this in the course of the movie. That's all I wanted to say. So shout out to the soundtrack. That really helped set up that movie to help set up this movie that we're talking about. So.
No, I agree. I think the animated intro with the soundtrack definitely set up that tone that you kind of want, like this adventure that you're about to go through, and then the movie started.
Yep.
All right, so the movie starts. We meet the kids, Nick and Amy. Which I'm gonna be honest with you, it took me forever to figure out the names for any of the characters. Like legitimately, I don't know if they just didn't really kind of talk about it later on, but that was a miss on my half. We meet Nick and Amy, and of course, we meet the dad eventually, who was working on the machine, and they did their 1980s text messaging. Tim,
Yep.
and let's be honest with ourselves, Rick Moranis was just slamming on that keyboard when he was texting back. There was no way that he was typing remotely what actually came out of that machine.
It takes practice, man. I mean, that's why she said again when she read the message and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
I tell you, like because I practiced typing and stuff like that back in the day. Like I looked at it, I saw him typing, I was just like, He didn't even try. He didn't even try. He just
Mm-hmm.
you press buttons, whatever, man, whatever.
Each button was a
Anyway,
pre-type. It was fun. It'd been funny if they worked the editing right where it was already on there. You just see him typing stuff and then like yeah, I don't know. It was funny.
yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
funny.
Like if they wouldn't have necessarily showed the keyboard and just him doing it,
Yeah,
just like this, like you're
yeah,
watching me on the camera, just like
yeah.
this. Then I'd be like, all right, cool. But I saw the actual keyboard and I was like,
Hmm.
you didn't type that. You didn't
Right.
type that. Anyways, during the setup too, we got a chance to meet Big Russ and May, the neighbors,
Hmm.
where they run into their eccentric kid Ron, who was setting up traps throughout the backyard to keep from like the neighbors from or to keep from burglars, I suppose, coming to the backyard.
Hmm.
You see Wayne test the machine out. The machine obviously didn't work. It blew up an apple. It blows up stuff. We kind of get a chance to see the relationship between the parents and the kids. We also get to hear the relationship about the mom and the dad, Wayne and his wife, on the phone.
Hmm.
And then there was things in the house that were tech machines in the house. And of course, they did the Nick and Tommy lawnmower remote scene,
Hmm.
or remote control lawnmower scene to kind of set up something that will happen later on. There was the conference that there was the conference that actually happened about the shrink machine that didn't work.
Because it
Ron
was
playing baseball.
used.
Go ahead.
It was used for space, like NASA stuff. Is that? Am I wrong on that? Was that going to
No,
be
he was
used?
explaining it. He was explaining that if you remove all the space between particles, you can shrink something.
Oh, I thought they were trying to use it for future plans for
Oh
like
yeah,
part
yeah,
of part
yeah. No, you're
part
right.
of the space program or something like that. Am I
No,
wrong?
no, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
Because they
Okay.
talked about being able to use it for different applications like space and whatnot
Okay.
too.
Okay. Cool. I just want to make sure. Okay. Go on. I'm
So
sorry.
no, you're right. You're right.
Mm.
They go through the conference. Ron plays baseball in the front yard, which we'll talk about. Knocks the ball into the machine upstairs in the attic, which makes this machine work. And then eventually the kids get shrunk.
Hmm.
This whole entire setup of the movie. What were some of the things that kind of stood out to you? What did you think about the setup of the movie?
Cheesy, but it works because I feel like sure the baseball flies through the window, creates this thing. What a coincidence! They walk in right at the right time. Everything just hit them with a ray, and I feel like they could have been a better way to set that up.
Honestly, the setup was probably about 30 minutes long, I think,
Uh-huh.
to set up everything that's going on. It was kind of boring to me, to
Okay.
be honest with you. Learning the relationships between like Wayne, his wife, which I'm not gonna lie, was kind of a throwaway line whenever the daughter was like, he's at his grandma's house or she's at the grandma's house because they had a fight. And I was like, all right, so we're setting up. I didn't catch that at first, and so there was this whole conversation that I didn't catch at all. And I was sitting there wondering, it's like, where's the wife in this whole thing? Why are the kids asking like, when she coming home? It's like, doesn't she come home every day from work? Like,
Hmm.
where's she going? Like, are you trying to set up like there's this trouble in paradise, trouble at home type of thing?
It was unnecessary, right? Because it did
It felt
nothing.
that way.
It did nothing to what the situation was going on. This wasn't a story that was going to put the parents back together all of a sudden, right? And it wasn't rough. They were just kind of in a rough patch, but they didn't make it seem like, hey, we're divorced or we're going to think about divorce. That was never really up there. Once the shrinking started, it kind of threw out the window of anything. Especially, I think the neighbors were more interesting in their drama.
The Thompsons,
Yeah, than what they were. Because at least with the Thompsons, you got to see them interact more with their kids in that way from being ready for this camping trip. So I thought the neighbors had a better bond set up for that. I think that stuff could have been cut away. To tell you the truth, in my personal opinion, you didn't need that. You could just had the mom just come home like another regular day. We didn't need this. it was like I said, it did nothing to get them to come back together. They're not like a happy family. Like, I love you so much, I'm going to be with you forever. I mean, it mentioned it, but it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't push it hard enough. It was just more of like, it's almost like, I thought about it, but you know what? I love my family, kind of thing. And it's like, it's kind of cheesy. So
Yeah, like I don't think that the relationship between Wayne and Amy, or Wayne and his wife, was warranted enough to have them feel so separated.
Mhm.
Like I think the idea was not the idea of the movie, but I think the idea that they were pushing on, I think us, was the fact that how the kids like Nick, Amy, Ron, Little Russ are with their parents is that there's like kind of like a gap between them. And I don't know if that's necessarily something that kind of feels like a typical childhood, like for a lot of people, like whether or not you felt that close with your parents back when you were younger or when I was younger. I never really felt that close with my parents.
Mhm.
So I kind of get it, but not to the point where there was this whole like what felt like a tear in the family.
Mhm.
But it was interesting. I don't know. Who do you think was weirder, the Slinskys or the Thompsons?
The Selinskys. Mainly because of the house. I think the house was so interesting and a missed opportunity at the same time. You just saw so many weird things going on in there, and there was a lot of question stuff. I don't know about you, but when you're watching it, I felt more like I want to learn more about this house that's going on, from the cat clock to the first texting that ever been created to the telephone. There's a lot of unnecessary gadgets. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do we really need a remote lawnmower? Your yard's not that big, It's cool.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was unnecessary, but it drew my curiosity. Like, I like to see what other weird gadgets they have in this house,
Yeah, I think that's Nick's ordeal, right? He created the lawnmower remote control, the remote lawnmower. And you may say this, but I bet you our friend Jerome would actually love to have a remote lawnmower.
Probably. His
And I'm
yard's
sure we
bigger,
can
though.
probably just do a short video of him just popping up and just saying, "Hell yeah, I want one."
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think there was a lot of unnecessary gadgets. Like, who needs a gadget to like answer like their phone or hang up their phone? Like, it
Hmm.
threw me off. I was just like, why are we doing this? Like, what purpose does this all do? Like, does it just build? Does that build the like the aura of like Wayne is kind of like this eccentric inventor who just invents a bunch of stuff?
I will double that. I think that the family itself just deals with the failed experiments. They know that these things are pointless, but they do it because they love them. Like the phone thing. Really, really, like if he present that phone to me as his kid, I'm like, it's not really doing anything, but I'll use it because you made it, but it's kind of dumb. I feel like there's just a lot of dumb gadgets in there. They just use it because they love them. That's what I feel like. Because it shows that they show that he's a failure as an inventor.
At
Even
least from what we see.
what we
yes.
see. And so the house is full of things that looks like they're failures per se, but we use them because there's nothing else to do with them, and he doesn't just want to throw it away. That's just my theory. That's my theory hat of looking at it that way. So
No, that's fair. I mean, do you think Diane was just tired of all the junk that Wayne created and was just like, I gotta go, I gotta go. I'm gonna go to my mom's.
I think so.
Screw you.
I think so. I think it's overrun, and he became a hoarder. Yeah, I think as an inventor like Wayne, he became a hoarder. I mean, how dare you tell those kids they got to clean the house up before your mom gets home? Like, what?
You know, that was the other thing. Like, she was gone for like a day, like one day. Like, did they really jack up the house that bad for? It wasn't like, stop, don't, my babysitter's dead or anything like that. Like, it was insane. I was just like, all right. And then, of course, he's just, he felt like a single dad in this movie, but he wasn't.
True. That's what they should have just hold on to. They should have been. This should have been the real push of getting this device work, so his wife would come back. because he made something successful, and she should have never came home until it happened or something like that. Instead of she just came halfway, and it kind of ruins it because like, oh, you made it? Oh, that's awesome. You shrunk the kids. You know, it would have been cool to keep her in the back of this. I don't know, man. I just feel like that she was almost unnecessary to be in the movie. But let me ask you this. Why would you, as part of the kids next door, why did you think of playing baseball like that? Knowing that when you hit it, it's going to go somewhere, right? That's kind of a weird forced setup for this movie, right? And it's like, I'm going to play baseball by myself, even though I got to be ready in 5 minutes to go on a camping trip. But I'm going to play baseball by myself. And like, clearly, you think this ball is not going to go far? Like, I don't know. It was kind of a weak forced setup for it. I accepted it, but it was kind of like, okay. What did you think about that? Did you think that made sense?
No, it didn't make sense at all. Like the idea of playing baseball. Before he even gets to that point, he does the '80s trope of being a bully to Nick. It's like you could be the base. And
the dialogue is not good in this movie, by the way.
Huh?
I did not like the dialogue in this movie. It's for him.
That
I
dialogue
don't
was kind of rough.
say what.
We will talk about this one dialogue though that I thought was legit.
Okay, but
a little later on.
But
Ron playing baseball towards the house, like why? Like maybe he just doesn't care, man.
But I think that at the beginning of the setup, the most interesting character was his big brother, right? He was the only one that had the most interesting backstory that he got out of it, right? From being cut from the football team, from there, and getting the most character development from like, hey, the most bonding with the dad. He got the biggest character compared to the girl, Amy. Amy just wanted to go to the mall. That's it.
Amy was like the most regular person in this movie.
She was, but she was not built. But when it came to character development, she was one of the least people that got the least character development to me per se. It was more of the neighbor kid, the guy, because he was the one at the beginning. I learned more about him than any other character to me in the movie so far.
I don't know. Something about Little Russ made me want to punch him.
That's fine. But Little Russ didn't. But we never found out why Little Russ is like that. Little Russ is just a little brat, a little troublemaker. Like we don't know why.
No, Little Russ, because I mean not Ron. I was talking about Little Russ, like the older kid.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, Ron is the smaller kid from Big.
Oh, okay.
And Little Russ is the older kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Little Russ had a punchable face to me. I think he's a typical teenager in my opinion in this movie so far at the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
Because he's like, I don't really want to play football. It's not my thing. My dad's trying to make me do it. And then the dad's playing kind of like that overly zealous dad who was like, I expect my son to be a great football player or a great basketball player or whatever. So I kind of get where he's coming from, but he is I don't know, he has just a punchable face to me.
Yeah, even though he has a punchable face, he was the person I learned the most about so far. As we continue on, I think that we will see that develop. So overall, the setup, you saying it was kind of slow, I agree, it was pretty slow, but I still like the setup. I think what I got out of it was a tour. I got to see what the house was like. I got to see some of the ideas that Wayne wanted to do with it.
I think a common thing for me in this movie is that there are a lot of scenes, I think, in this movie that I know why they did what they did, but it was a waste of time for me.
Okay. All right.
And we'll get into that a little bit. We'll get into the specifics on that as we go. Right. So, we'll start off with the confrontation. It all starts. This movie all starts as soon as the kids shrink. Wayne sweeps them up and takes them out with the trash, basically. Mm-hmm. It all starts right there.
Okay.
First off, how all of them were together when they were in the trash bag is beyond me and you. Mm-hmm. Because I'm gonna say if you get swept up into a trash can, you get walked around in the trash, man. Y'all ain't gonna be in the same place.
Hmm. I agree with that. I agree with that.
But they
Um,
get in, they get into the trash. They get taken out to the backyard. They open it up with a knife of some sort or some sort of so sharp object that they found.
which I totally disagree with that situation, but it is what it is.
Yeah, what do you disagree about it?
I disagree that there's no way in hell they found something that quick.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
on top of that, everything's bigger, but yet they found something their size.
Yeah, and it's dark too.
Yeah. So you just took a guess. No one had a flashlight. No one had anything. If someone had a flashlight in there, I would let it all slide. But for that situation, it didn't make sense. What they could have done is while he's walking, maybe a tear happened on a fence or something, and he
Yeah,
was unaware of it. That would have saved it. But it was a missed opportunity. So, anyways.
yeah. So they cut open, they get out, and of course, from there, it cuts to the husband and wife discussion, the Wayne and Diane discussion about. Diane comes home. Wayne's like, "My thinking couch is missing," and I wanted to bring that up because I was just like, "All right, so your thinking couch, this big sofa, is missing from your attic. You have no idea where it's at. You didn't think anything of it. Like
Okay.
you just now bring it up. Like it's two
That's
sofas, like two full size couches, man.
Wayne hurt this movie to me personally, because of that. I'm not a big fan of characters that are geniuses but lack common sense.
Yeah,
And this is a small room, and you're telling me you took a good look at the room and then put two and two together. From the moment he walked in, you literally saw him investigate the whole situation. Yes,
yeah,
he fell down on the floor, didn't even care to look down on the floor. He looks to the window, he looks at the machine, and that's all he puts two and two together. And what does he do? He just straight bangs the machine. That makes no sense to me. And the fact that the baseball was not that far behind. You swept the floor. You're telling me you didn't see a baseball? It was like, it's just, that part was more upsetting than the baseball being through the window. You know, it was a weak reason for that.
No, I agree with you because I mean you swept the floor, so you obviously cleaned the floor from whatever you felt was there. But then there was broken glass, a broken window, which you weren't upset about. You question that your kids are missing, which is good because you should question that your kids are missing.
Hmm.
But the idea that your kids would be the ones that were able to take the couch downstairs, like you know, like wouldn't you think is like your kids get kidnapped now because like you got stuff missing from the house? Like the mentality of it all, like I'm not quite sure where they were going there.
But I will say one thing, and this is just going to say through the whole movie for me. For an 80s movie, once they were small, I was invested.
Yeah.
Because to this day, I never felt like it was fake. It was a fake world to me. I think they did a good job of making being small that believable environment. It literally looks like that they set up really this big stage for them to be on, and it was awesome. Even through the course of this movie as being small, they did a really good job of that. And so I appreciate them going all the way of doing this, and I wish that we can get back to that. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say for that particular, because the moment they got shrunk, that was awesome. I was like, I'm in. And I think that's where the childhood connects in. It's like, this is why I got into this. And I'm glad that I don't remember the first half very well. The beginning very well. Like, I'm glad I just always ran into this particular part. So, yeah.
No, and we'll go into that because this is where we actually start getting the feeling of the set and like the scope of things, right? Because this is when the kids actually they go back to where the kids are walking through the grass, the backyard. You know, Nick is calculating how far the backyard is from the house. They run across the river, but before that, they saw the butterfly fly across the top of them. They run into the river, which, you know, of course, Little Russ was all like, we can make a log raft.
Hey. Some people just like to think they just like throwing stuff at the wall, and then somebody say yeah or nay. You always have that person in the group. I'll be that person. We get a rock. No, a bigger rock.
Yeah. Right. They also get scared by the toy dinosaur that was in the yard. So you get a chance to see like the environment and everything that was going on. And I thought the practical effects and how they had that set up was absolutely awesome. Like that part I liked a lot. Like I was like, yes, this is what I remember when I watched this movie too. Was just that feeling, right, of seeing all this stuff. Then they get to the big flower. Of course, they whistled at their dog Cork. They tried to get their dog, was unsuccessful because the cat was being a cat. You can hold your cat up all you want.
One thing. Shout out. They didn't have to do this. They didn't have to do this for a movie, but I'm so glad. I'm so glad they did. They distinguish how small they are at the beginning when the dog bark and how they hurt their ears. I'm like, thank you for acknowledging how it sounds as a small person compared to that. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that, but you did. And now you bring it up because you're bringing up the part where the dog comes and they talked about he can hear a pitch like that. And I'm like, that's awesome. They're like, good creative ideas. But go on.
I think that was pretty good. And then they get to the flower, and then they decided to climb the flower. And little Russ was like, tell me, Jeremy, what does him climbing the flower when those two are already climbing the flower gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna go help him. Like, help him do what?
You know, it's dumb, but don't act like you didn't do that too when you were little. Like, hey, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go over there with you. I was like, what is that gonna do? I was one of those kids that did that too. So like, I get it. It's dumb now. Look at that, but I have to be guilty because I probably have done that too. It's that. It's that whole, like, I don't want him to steal the show. I want to be the better person, kind of thing. So, like, it's funny but dumb at the same time. And I'm glad they kept that going of, like, they're kids. They're going to be stupid. They are stupid. So
that's the thing, though, is it was because he was trying to impress the girl?
No. He just wants to be better than the genius kid. That's all he wants. Like, I'll go help him, so he could just kind of show that he's better than him. I don't know, man. Kids don't have really reasons why they do stuff now.
Exactly what are you gonna do, man?
Kids have no reason why they do the things they do. I mean, I'm telling you, it's so stupid, but it's true.
So they start climbing, and then they pan out, and the neighbors are finally, the parents and the neighbors are finally talking about missing kids. The Thompsons and the Slinskys are talking about the missing kids. Now, this kind of happens quite often throughout the entire confrontation part, or the middle part of this movie, is like they pan out and they switch to Wayne, Diane, May, and Big Russ, and just the things that happen during that time to kind of transition from what the kids are doing between each time the kids start doing something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that broke the movie for me. Like, broke a lot of the movie for me, because I felt the transitions that they tried to do, like, changed the pace of the movie to where I was like, all right, I'm really gamed into this journey. I really want to see what's going to happen next. And then bam, we're back at a slow part, and they're talking about, like, they're missing kids or something stupid.
No, let me throw something at you, because this is what I was thinking when I watched that movie. I agree. The whole back and forth kind of killed the pace, right? Because all you cared about was just seeing these kids on this journey. You were invested in the world. I want to stay in that world. I want to see where this goes.
The golden part was when the bees came, which is what actually happened next.
Yes.
The bees came, separated little Russ and Nick away from, Amy and Ron.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, was where they could have stopped doing the transitions to the parents.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, because at this point, you can separate them, and you can transition to that group, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the sprinklers hit, and they found each other.
Yeah, I I 100% agree with that because it felt like they were too scared to separate these kids for long.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a giant yard that's probably in small, the size of the Amazon tropical forest, right? Like that's basically the equivalent of that. And it doesn't make sense by coincidence they dropped down to that. And the reason I did this is because the bee could have helped speed up this story. I like the grass part, but part of me felt like it was a missed opportunity, and I was like, I want to know what happened when they get in the house. Like, what goes on in the house? What about the gadgets that can be, these things can finally come in full circle? But we never got that, and I thought the bee was going to do that, speed it up a little bit, where they're separated as these two kids are bonding, trying to get to this point, and then they're trying to get back. I don't know. I just felt like that they were too afraid to split these characters up, and it did not make sense how they would actually just come back. Like, that just didn't make sense to me. That even though that yard is small, it's not that small for you guys to all of a sudden meet each other again. I agree with you. It didn't make any sense.
I'm with you too. I think it would have been interesting that you're absolutely right. If the bee took two of the kids into the house, so now they had to figure out how to run into the other two kids in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so two people in the house, two people in the yard, and then they have to find a way to find each other, and then also let Rick or let Wayne know that they're here and they don't get killed. Because at that point you could have seen so many different like sets and so many different situations that happen between the two that it makes for a better movie than the transition of the parents and slowing the movie down from what I felt like it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was a lot, and the funny part is there was a lot of great opportunities to do that from a bee, because you can actually let a bee in the house. If you could, the way they were going out that door, that was a possibility. Even with the dog, and part of me thought the cat was a missed opportunity too. I wanted the cat I feel like the cat could have attacked them. I really wanted that because they kind of hinted at the dog and the cat at this little beef. I thought that at one point this cat was going to see them and try to play with them in his own world. I don't know. There was a lot of missed opportunities that they could have added on if they're going to do this whole thing. And, maybe it was the budget. I don't know. But, yeah, they were too afraid to separate them because they wanted them to really bond. And I think, you didn't trust us to see this happen. You should trust and let them come together in a cool way. And that would have been really entertaining in that way. So, yeah.
All right, so with the whole bee thing, we talked about this. I kind of mentioned
that was a long scene too, by the way.
Between the bee thing and the sprinklers, there was the part where the family or the Wayne finally figures out. Well, first off, Wayne's trying to kill the bee with a bat.
I have never, ever seen anybody thought that was the best idea. I honestly thought if I was him, I'd run in the house. That's what I do. Or just get away from it. Like, I don't grab a baseball and a bat, let alone that's your trigger for everything connecting everything together? Okay, whatever. All right, Wade. Yeah. All right, Wade.
Yeah. He grabs a bat, and then of course he has that conference. They tease more on the wife and him. Where he's just like, I had a bee on me, that's why I had the bat, and she was just like, whatever. And I'm like, why is this even here?
Thanks, Ron.
what does he gain for having a bat? Is attacking a bee? Why is she mad at him? What does he gain out of this? He gains nothing.
Dude, I wonder what happened to the other bees. You know what I mean? There was a bunch of bees before that. Most bees stay in groups.
Yes.
And yet, those other bees, where were they going? There was no beehive nearby. There was nothing. It was just, what a coincidence. A group of bees just happened to fly by. That was weird. That was a weird thing. I don't know. That was weird for me.
And we'll talk about that too, because
the butterfly would have been better.
The bees is not the only one that we question on that. We questioned that either.
Mm-hmm.
So Wayne finally figures out because of the baseball bat that he shrunk the kids, or that the machine works and they shrunk the kids. Let's be honest ourselves. That machine was very selective on what it shrunk, because if I'm not mistaken, that beam was aiming at a bunch of other things too as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it would have been interesting if they shrunk the wall and like the roof collapsed.
100%. That door number one should have been taken down first
Mm.
before the couch. But
Oh yeah.
whatever. It was too easily selective of what they wanted to shrink instead of just going crazy. That room should have been a lot more smaller by the time those kids got up there. Just saying. Good
No,
for
I
Wayne.
agree.
Good for Wayne.
So sprinklers hit, big water drops come, and then the kids meet each other again. We get the close call and death where Amy falls into the puddle of mud and almost drowns. And this is where Russ saves her and then makes the French kiss joke, or the French class joke, which I thought was kind of clever. I'm not gonna lie.
I guess. It didn't do it for me. But yeah.
Oh, I forgot this one thing. My favorite lines in this movie was when they got separated, because the bee separated the kids for like a short period of time, a very short period of time. But like whenever Ron and Amy started going back and forth, where Amy was just like, if you were my brother, I'd put you up for adoption.
Yeah.
And he's like, I hope your face goes, or I hope your picture is on a milk carton. I was like, damn, that's cold. Like, there's this deep hatred. I don't understand why there's this deep hatred.
I do like the part where Amy was talking about, like, look, when this the machine works, so we're gonna be rich and yada yada. And he's like, hey, you know, I love you. You know, you're my favorite neighbors.
I love you.
Did I ever say your dad's cool? I always thought he was a cool guy.
All right. So fast forward, we get the sprinkler part. It was kind of cool. I thought the sprinklers and the water and all that stuff, I thought that was really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
How it was portrayed in their world, like big globs of, like big boulders of water hitting the ground could possibly kill them if it hits them.
Oh yeah.
Truly speaking, if you have that big of water, then yeah.
It's the impact, if anything. It's just the impact.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that was really cool. And then, you know, of course, little Russ does the little jump on the slide thing, jump on the piece of grass and did the slide thing down. As a kid, I was like, all right, you know, I would love to do that. That looked like it was so much fun.
You know, rewatching all these parts during that thing, you never really, like, seeing all this stuff, you never really think outside of everything else that could happen. Like, good for them, it was a sunny day with no wind, right? Yeah. You know? Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so funny. Like, they knew where to stop it at, but it's just funny when you're looking from the outside, like, wow, good for them that it was not a cloudy day. Thank God it was a sunny day. You know,
if it was raining, they would be dead.
Right? Yeah, right. You know, with basically on the sprinklers.
Of course, in between all of this, there's a lot of pans going back and forth about Wayne, like, trying to look for them in the grass, using stilts, climbing the fence. Do you have anything you really want to say about that? Like, I think it's ridiculous.
That's where I checked out. Because, once again, well, just Wayne alone, once again. Because Wayne, again, is doing this whole, I'm a genius, but I lack common sense. How I don't get it, where we're supposed to accept some of the things that he does, right? I know it's supposed to be funny, but there could have been a better way to do that. You on crutches, and then you can't feel you being tugged by a hose, does not make sense to me. You know, it would have been funnier if you acknowledge it and you're trying to get it off, but you didn't. You just kept going. And so that wasn't funny to me. The whole, the weight of the TV and him holding up didn't make sense. It's like, all this work you done, you could have fixed that machine by now. In that aspect to me. And then the fact that the dog's running around in all this, I don't know, man. It's just, the movie was trying to make him really this goofy dad, and it just didn't work for me.
Yeah. Like, you know, I know we're going to pick on it because it's like the stilts, you know, still are going to crush your kids if you stand on the stilts. Nothing's going to change there. He was able to get from the house to the trash bags before climbing the fence later on when he realized that they were in the grass. It's like you literally just walked through the yard apparently to get there, so you're climbing the fence now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But after the sprinklers, I think the most worthless scene in this movie came about, and that was when Donald met Big Russ
Okay.
and the whole conversation with the camper and the $80. That was the most pointless scene in this movie.
You don't think it
What
helped?
what did that accomplish, Jeremy?
Um, just about how Russ chose over looking for these kids than this trip. That's what they were trying to do, but they didn't do it right. You know, by instead of telling the truth, they say they have to make up something. But you know the thing that was worth it. Totally worth it. Totally worth it the whole time. That's what I got out of it. That's what I got out of it. I will start doing that to people. No one will ever get what I'm saying, but I'm like,
that's our new thing. That's how we start the show off now, Jeremy. We just
I thought it was worth it. And just the fact that you get the girlfriend that just like the dumb chewing gum and doing stuff kind of girl. It's so stupid, but it's so funny. Hey, there's some guy over there hovering around in the grass. Not now, honey.
Isn't she like the smartest person in this movie?
Yeah, because
I get it, but I saw that scene and I was like, why is this even here? Is this just? It's all these scenes are transition scenes.
It was funny.
You do this. You could just do this in transition.
That'd be funny.
So the kids, they're walking, they're getting hungry, and they start talking about food, which makes sense because after a while you're walking, you're gonna get hungry, and boom, guess what happens? A Little Debbie's oatmeal cream pie comes up.
Okay,
Like,
let's get this out of the way. I feel like there's another missed opportunity. Let me ask you this. Okay. So far on this journey to where we're at right now, at the beginning of this movie, have you ever saw anything in the grass?
Have I ever saw what?
Anything in the grass in their backyard? Did you see a toy dinosaur in the grass? Did you see it? Did you see this oatmeal cookie that we're about to talk about? That part kind of threw me off a little bit. It's like, how did you run into this? I don't even remember seeing any of this in the yard. And just the fact that Wayne has gone back and forth, scanning this whole grass, and you're telling me that you never saw this toy dinosaur? This toy dinosaur must have been miniature then, and is giant to them. Like, I don't get it. But then the oatmeal cookies, which product placement, by the way, in the first at the beginning. Yeah, you got to represent it. But I don't know. It's just
I'm surprised you don't put a box up because you eat the oatmeal cookies and stuff like that.
I do, but I don't want to get blocked. I'm sorry. To your oatmeal cookie.
No, it just magically appears at a convenience. All right.
Would you eat that?
So we get the magical cookie where everyone's like eating the cookies. And don't get me wrong, like it made me want an oatmeal cookie during that time. I was just like, all right, this is legit. Like this, I remember the scene vividly in my mind.
Awesome setup to make that cookie big and creamy. That was awesome.
Yeah, the practical effects and making everything work.
That was awesome.
Legit. Like,
yeah,
I wanted that cookie. I felt like I wanted that cookie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna be loads for that cookie. Then the ant shows up.
Why just one ant?
Yeah, I think that's
missed opportunity.
You know what's funny? You get one butterfly, but the butterfly doesn't do anything. You get a swarm of bees, but you only get one bee. You don't even get multiple ants. You just get the one.
I feel like that they were close to making this a horror movie. Like, cut it back. Because there's a lot of bugs. So
yeah, yep. The ant was actually a really cool scene. I thought that was really neat.
I like
the whole ant and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, if I was that ant, those guys would be so dead so quick.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Like, the one thing that bothered me about the ant scene, actually there was multiple things that bothered me, but so Amy grabs the cookie when they went to go attack the ant, and the ant's just like doing the whole rodeo thing. She grabs the piece of the cookie was like, "Here you go," and then like gets him to stop, right? But I'm sitting there going, "It's like there's still a big ass cookie over there, right?"
I wonder if the ants are not as smart as they seem. They only care about what's in front of them. I guess in that way, that's what they're trying to portray it. That he's not doing the whole, huh?
Really,
Huh?
if he cares what's in
Huh?
front of him, then these mofos are trying to kill me. I'm gonna kill them.
True. True. I
So
don't know,
so
man. That's
so what would happen is that she would hold this cookie out, and he would just bite her head off and call it good, and move on to the next.
actually, I'm surprised that we didn't already see ants on this cookie by the time they get there, right? That would have been a little more interesting. But
That was the thing, right? Because if
because
that cookie's been there for a while, you would see ants.
yeah, yeah, and I think that would have been cool. But do the budget, we can only do one ant. And so, did they name that ant? They didn't name that ant. They just call it ant, huh?
Auntie.
Auntie. Okay, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
ain't
they
that
named,
adorable? Anyways,
yeah, they named the ant Auntie. So
nailed
you
it.
get the whole them developing a relationship with Auntie because eventually they fed him the cookie and they were thinking, "That's all right. We're gonna ride this ant all the way home." Let's just say that Nick calculated this correctly and that it's 3.2 miles from where they were at to get back to the house.
I don't believe anything. I think it was all guesses. He just wanted to sound smart.
But I was gonna say, if it's 3.2 miles, how long does it take you to walk 3.2 miles? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. So like most people who jog and run, they'll do a mile in like an hour or not an hour in like 10 minutes. For me, when I walk, it takes me about like 20 minutes, 30 minutes if I'm just like jamming to whatever song I'm jamming
Okay.
to walk. So literally, probably should have taken me an hour
Okay.
to get back to the house.
Yeah.
So it took them a whole day.
Yeah. Here's the question: do you think the day would have gone faster for them being that small, going through that grass?
Well, that was the thing, though. Like he calculated that it was approximately 3 miles. So if you're just going 3 miles zigzag and stuff like that, even if you're going through a forest, it shouldn't have taken you. So let's give them 6 hours.
Okay.
It should have taken them maybe 2 hours at the most. Really, would it really take you 6 hours to like walk that though?
I guess at their pace.
But they got the ant. The ant was helping them walk faster. So
True. True. But that's another thing too. Like, how did they know they were going the right way? That's another interesting question, right? Like, how do you know you're going the right way? I wouldn't know. If I was that smart, I wouldn't know. Because apparently, for some reason in this movie, Nom, they don't like looking up. You notice that? They don't like looking up. Like, you have Wayne gliding in a cycle, and you're telling me you never ever looked up to see, like, there's Dad coming around again. They could have just sat there in one place and worked on his rotation. Sorry, I broke the movie, didn't I? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break the movie.
no, you're fine.
Sorry. But just the fact that if you looked up and see what he was doing, all you had to do is find the spot that he was going to look around. And then
Exactly.
you could have been picked up a long time ago, you know? But we wouldn't have a movie now, wouldn't we?
No, we wouldn't have the movie.
Yeah. So.
Of course, there's a handful of transitions again. I didn't really talk about the transitions. I think there is one that we can talk about, the cops.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, I felt that was unnecessary too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were really poor at their job because, quite literally, you go to the house, the kids are missing. You're like, okay. And then you go to the next door neighbor's house, which happens to also have kids who are missing. The father is acting kind of strange, and he's like, oh no, they're in the backyard. Which, as cops, I'd imagine you would go to the backyard to look.
Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't enough. So my wife falling, all of a sudden fainting. That's not. But you're still not going to be interested in walkouts. Okay, cool. Yeah. There was a lot of red flags, but they cared.
Yeah.
They think, okay, but he said it's fine. That's the most important thing. It's fine. I'll have to remember that if that happens. If a cop comes over, I'm like, nah, everything's fine.
Yeah,
Everything's fine.
just be really chill about it. I think the parents in this movie are worse than the parents in Home Alone.
They're up there. They're up there. Woo.
They are pretty much up there. I think the cop scene was absolutely pointless. I don't really think it brought anything to this movie.
I think that one is more worthless than the other kid.
The
At least I chuckled on that. The cops, it was like, thanks for acknowledging you came to check it out. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. The kids run into a big Lego that was left out.
It's nighttime. It's our first night.
Yeah, that they decided to split up and wanted to actually like sleep in the different parts of the Lego. Let me be honest with you. That Lego seems pretty huge to them. The fact that they only split up to 2 people per, like, kind of confused me. I was just like, you could probably fit all 4 of you guys in that one little hole, and if you guys lay like horizontally, I think you fit and have a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't what they did, so I was like, all right.
But
whatever.
but also too, was not forget the cigarette butt, because that part was interesting. That was interesting. Another coinciding that happened, right? I thought that was an interesting thing, because I didn't care about the kids finding the source of fire. I was just amazed that this practical effect of a cigarette butt was pretty cool.
Dude, that was awesome.
That was pretty cool. So
yeah, I'll give them that cigarette butt, that practical effect. In fact, all of the practical effects in this movie I thought were really cool. Like, I enjoyed watching them. And then, of course, the Lego. You got Auntie, and then he comes.
Is that how it works, Nom? Is that how it works?
Get over here.
Get over here. Okay. Good for you, Nom.
Wait, Jeremy. Get over here.
Stupid. I like what you did there. I like it. That's what he should do once he loses his rope. He's like, get over. Crap. Get over here. How'd you feel about the first major bonding between Little Russell and Amy?
I think it's a fair thing that you knew that something was going to happen, because he did save her, and I think it is like a typical like teenage thing where, like, if you spend a lot of time with each other, you'll hopefully win somebody over. At least that's what we guys like to think. It doesn't really happen in real life all the time, but we guys like to think this.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked it. I mean, I can understand the idea that they're building kind of like this romance between the two. Like, there always seemingly has to be a romance of some sort.
Yeah.
In every movie you watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, though, there was another missed opportunity for Ron and, is it Nikki? It's Nikki, sorry.
Nick,
yeah. For them to have a bonding moment.
Yeah,
like,
to be like best friends eventually.
Yeah, just talk, That's another thing in this whole movie. They never really got a bond moment ever. So that was a missed opportunity for that. So,
this is fair.
Yeah.
That they didn't get the same amount of love that I would say Amy and Big Russ got, or Little Russ got.
Now we get to the meat of this.
You mean the stop motion?
Yeah.
You know what? So the stop motion animation, like, I understand that it doesn't like stand the test of time, but for what it was back then, I was fine with it.
I think it would look great still in this film. I think it looks great. So,
yeah. Would you have preferred that stop motion of the scorpion in the Mummy 2 whenever the Rock comes out?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I agree.
100%.
I think that stop motion should be used. In fact, I think it should be used even in Mortal Kombat 95 when Scorpion tries to.
It stop motion works for certain things, and it works for scorpions because scorpions walk like that, regardless CG or not. So it makes sense for that stop motion. It just works for that one. And same thing with ants. It worked for the ant. It doesn't really work on humans that walk around, but when it comes to creatures, it really works very well. Just like the scorpion, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was good. And I think this movie got kind of dark there. With the whole Auntie and the Scorpion fight, and when there's a lot of parts of this movie that was terrifying, I think for a kid, and got pretty dark. I think two of the creators worked on the Reanimator series or movie, and had kind of like a dark vision because originally there was supposed to be 5 kids in this movie, and one of them was supposed to die, which I think is more practical. But for a kids movie, I completely understand why they stayed away from that.
But part of you too wish that, like, I wish they took the risk. Really wish they took the risk, because this wouldn't be the first time we see a kid died in a children's movie. It just depends how they die, right?
It would have to be like Tommy, though, right? Like where we don't meet the parents.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like
Sure.
I feel like it'd be kind of hard to have one of the four of them die, and then they bring back three of them, and then the explanation that, hey, your kid is dead.
Sure.
Like I feel like if you never met the parent, then there's that conversation we don't have to worry about bringing per se.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Or just the illusion of it. Like, he could be gone for a long time and we presume that he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
That could work too, So, yeah. But I did, I'm not saying I teared up, but I was very saddened when the aunt died. I was like, you know what? You helped carry a little bit of this movie. So, and it was cool. And it made the world feel more alive, because I wanted to see other bugs mess with other bugs. This is in the worst case human nature in this aspect, and I wanted to see that, and I'm glad that they kind of demonstrate that. Which is sad, because I think it was another missed opportunity to see a spider fight a scorpion in there. I'm just saying. Two terrifying creatures fighting for them would have been a bang hit. It's their own Godzilla versus King Kong. That would have been awesome. So, just saying.
No, I think they had a lot of opportunities. Of course, budget keeps them from having those opportunities.
Yep.
This is probably a reason why they want to remake this movie, because I think they can do so much more with it if they want to.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that later too. I think I do. I agree. I want a remake, and I think there's a lot of new opportunities they could do with that. Anyways.
No, I agree. So Scorpion kills Auntie. Scorpion goes away. We get to Tommy coming back, getting the lawnmower started and going off on the whole lawnmower thing. Diane and Wayne come downstairs and they yell at the kid. Dude, I'm gonna tell you what. You know that scene in The Waterboy, wherever the professor was like, "It's like there must be something wrong with your medulla oblongata," and he just goes and just like waylays him. Like,
I'll tell you, man. Like, it is so sad that it's just not working with me and Wayne. Like, every time Wayne doing something, it's like it's just not working, and it's not funny, and it hurts. Because it's like, he's already in the grass, man. Just grab him. And it just doesn't work for me. It just wasn't funny.
Like, excuse me. Or
throw
you could
something.
Be like me and just like freaking full on like knock him over.
Throw something at him. Like, I don't know. Like, it just wasn't working. And it just wasn't.
Like, I get the yelling part, yelling at him as you're running towards him. And then when you find out he's got earphones in, like doing something to like get his attention other than going,
because it's not logical. It's not logical to walk out there and still stay up the grass after you see a lawnmower going. Like, what do you have to lose now? The lawnmower is going cutting the grass. Your kids could be dead already. So what's the point? Get in the grass and get him to stop. It made no sense, and it wasn't funny with it, and that was disappointing. So,
and that would have been the scene where you actually had somebody die.
That'd be too brutal. That would be way too brutal. Even though they went through the mower,
yeah,
and not get cut. So good for them.
Yeah. Like, that's where you have one person die, and then like the three kids come back, and they're just like, yeah, so the lawnmower killed one of us, and then they pan it to Wayne's face, and he's just like, I stopped him, and then Wayne like goes and becomes the Joker or something when he realizes the guilt that he killed somebody. Just could have turned evil,
or it could have set up for a sequel where they got to go back in and get him. So
man, that was the confrontation part, the middle part of this movie, man. overall, the middle part of the movie, like I said, the transition parts really kind of took me out of it. I enjoyed everything that was the travel, the journey, the exploration part, but those transition scenes is what I call them. They were killer me, dude. They just killed me.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
this movie's an hour and 33 minutes, and an hour and a half is what we say is the sweet spot, but God, it felt so much longer to me. So we get to the resolution, the end of this movie, and that is it. We're done because that was exactly how fast this ended.
Mm-hmm.
I
They
mean,
pull a
literally,
Karate Kid on me.
yeah, literally the dog, or the lawnmower stopped. They stopped the kids. They whistled for the dog. The dog came out, picked up the kids. They fell into the Cheerio, Nikki fell into the Cheerios. The dog bit Wayne in the ankle. They were on a spoon, playing charades, saying it's baseball. Where I want to tell you, the first thing that came to mind was like, voila! Here you go. Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good and who want to learn how to do other stuff good too.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? A center for ants? Like these kids should go there. They test the machine on Big Russ because they find out the baseball is what took extra heat away from the actual laser, and then they blew the kids back to normal. That was it. Literally, probably felt like 10 minutes, but it was like 20 minutes, I think.
Have they ever explained why the apple didn't work?
Yeah, that was the throwaway line. It was a throwaway line. So the
Okay.
baseball, the reason the baseball gets in line with where the laser's at and absorbs the extra heat that it produces.
Okay.
So it was overheating, is what it was doing.
Okay.
So the baseball kept it from overheating and shrunk and was able to give it the amount of heat that it needed to shrink whatever it needed to
So
shrink.
why didn't he not try to shrink a furniture at the very beginning or something? Like why an apple? Like he could have just done a chair. He could have done a couch.
Exactly. Instead of testing on Big Russ again, or instead of testing it on Big Russ, is like they just wanted to. They wanted to give Big Russ that moment, right?
Wait, you silly guy! You're You're too smart. You're too smart for things.
Yeah.
You're too smart. You're so smart that you overthink things.
Yeah. Before we go into our awards, man, let's go with two things. Two things here. What do you want to see in the remake? Because that's what you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And what was your favorite scene in this movie?
Okay. So we'll go with my favorite scene. My favorite scene was the scorpion trying to kill them. Because it was the first time we saw actual real danger. I think that scene was more dangerous than the lawnmower. Because this is them working together, trying to fight the scorpion, even though they should have lost. But just seeing this stop motion really showing what they can really do with the practical effects with live actors. That was a cool scene for me. I really like that scene. That brought the immerse because that's the first time too we got real danger, and I'm comparing it to the water because those are just unfortunate moments, right? But I'm talking about like really, like if you don't do something about this thing, it will kill you. Which, by the way, no, you know damn well that scorpion would have not walked away. Like, hey man, everything's cool. I'm out. No, you know damn well that scorpion would stay to the very end. Like, someone's dying right now. It's not that ant. You guys coming to, I don't know. I can go on a rant on that later. But anyways, so that's my favorite part. On the remake, let's make it focus more on the kids and the journey.
Yeah.
That's really the thing about it. Like, I want to see these kids, and I want a creative way. You were talking about how they would get that machine to work again. I want to see them come up with the idea of how they would get it to work again. I want to see more off-the-wall goofiness on the right there and keep it a good pace. Like, yes, I do want the trash can through the grass, but let's speed that up and get to the house. Like, the first half could be about the grass. Second half could be all this crazy stuff in the house, from going through the kitchen, the living room, up the stairs, how the dog interacts with this. Let's get a cat in there, man. Like, let's get these crazy things going on where I'm scared they're not going to make it up there. And that's really what I want. And yeah, and I'm willing to sacrifice them not doing the practical effects and just make it very believable and fun. Make it a fun movie, and don't make it too over the top goofy. You know,
Yeah.
have the parents there, but have them there just for plot device. Don't focus too much on them. To me personally, it's like just make it like the Goonies. It's just like the journey. And make it where, and this is the last thing, make it where that they have a certain time limit. If they can't get back to normal by the parents come, then the parents are going to count them as missing and they're going to report to the police or all that stuff. But let's make that urgency feel, I don't know, man. I just feel like that'd be awesome. What about you?
I'm with you too. I think the focus needs to be on the journey and less on the transitions of the family and stuff like that. Of course, you're going to have parts where the family is going to be, concerned and all that. I think Home Alone did it really well, where like you pan to the family every so often, but it wasn't so consistent that it kind of broke the immersion. Like if you're immersed in this situation, be immersed and don't be afraid to split them up and actually have them develop relationships with each other in getting there. Like if you have the older siblings get together, then at least you can see how those two started falling for each other, but also being really concerned because this is their little brother and little sister they're trying to find and take care of. Like that's the urgency that they need, right? The next, of course, we're gonna go back to Ron and Nikki, and we're gonna be like, all right, so these two are completely different. One's really smart, but you know what? Ron's really clever too because Ron did all those traps and stuff like that. That
Never
had
utilize
no part
it
in this movie.
Never use any of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how clever could those two have been in their journey, like inside the house? Like what could those two have done to fend off things like a mice or whatever to kind of survive, right? And then those two meeting up and there being like the Cheerio scene, and then eventually the whole they get brought back. But I think the journey of separating them and then forcing kind of us to see their journeys and their cleverness and their relationships. Because I think as a kid, if you're watching this movie, you're like, if I was in that situation, I would do this instead. And I think kids probably had thought that these guys are stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I honestly think if I had a kid, like a nephew or something to watch that movie, there probably would be like, I would have done this or that. Like I would have been curious to see what they have done because I think they would have done different things than what happened in the movie. Because I think that's the idea, right? Is to get those kids going. All right, so I would have did this, I would have did that, I would have tried this, I would have tried that. Like something simple like the lawnmower mowing the lawn. Like I would go towards the area where the grass is cut because obviously the lawnmower shouldn't go back over there again, right? Just things like that. So that's what I want to see. My favorite scene in this movie is probably the cookie and the ant thing.
Okay.
Auntie. I think that was a really good scene. Just seeing the practical effects in its element being used. I think, of course, there's the development with Auntie. I thought that worked out really well.
Yeah.
All right, man. So awards.
My award is I Can't Sleep award. Scenes that you definitely gonna have nightmares. You probably can't sleep of the horror stuff you've seen. So my top 3 are the bee ride.
Yeah.
The scorpion. And the sprinkler rain.
Okay.
Yeah. And just for honorable mention, the lawnmower.
Yeah.
So
I would honorable mention that one too.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add to that list?
No, I think you nailed it. I think that's the 3 that I had. So honorable mention goes to the lawnmower for sure.
Okay. So who's your winner?
Yes. My winner. This guy. You look at that face? That dude's scary.
Is he the one that started the lawnmower?
Like, he haunts my dreams now. I would go with the scorpion because let me say something. You can try to dodge stop motion, If that scorpion was moving stop motion like the girl from The Ring is moving, like towards the TV, like dude, that would be the worst.
Dude, I am with you on the scorpion because that scorpion could have killed this kid the moment he poked that first claw in that hole. Ron should have died. Ron should have died. He should have been the first one knocked out. You know? And you know, I say this before, that foreman would never left. He will not leave until he knows everybody's gone.
Yeah.
He walked out like I can't win against the four kids. Like, yes, you can. You have a stinger, which you never used, except on the ant.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, I would have had nightmares. I'm scared of scorpions now. You know,
That's fair, man.
Man, they're spiders with a stinger. They scare me now. You know, so like,
I will tell you this though, like if the Scorpion King came in from The Mummy 2, that one I may not be as scared. I would probably laugh. He'd probably cut my head off. I'd laugh at him while he's doing it.
Yep. Yeah.
But the Scorpion in this one definitely gets the win.
Yeah. Okay.
It takes the award.
Okay.
All right. So let's get to Rotten Tomatoes, man. So Rotten Tomatoes, there are two scores: the critics and the audience. And we decide whether we fit closer to the critics or we fit a little bit closer to the audience. Our critics this time around gave this movie a 77% out of 35 reviews, and our audience gave it a 54% out of 250,000 reviews. This is actually an interesting split. I wasn't ready for this one. Jeremy, are you more towards the critics or are you more towards the audience?
I am more with the audience. I think the critics gave it a little bit of a higher score because I think it was the special effects that really pulled that 77 for what it is, and I think the plot and the flow of it was the one that put it down a little bit. But I'm a 54 because there was a lot of stuff that was unnecessary and it hurt what this journey could have been. Mainly Wayne.
Yeah, so that child immersion that we talked about having when we were kids would have given it a 77 when I was a child. And initially, before I watched this movie, I thought the same thing. But as an adult, I can separate those two. 54.
If you ever watch this movie,
focus on the journey, man. Focus on that journey.
If you watch this movie, just skip the intro. It'll just hurt your feelings. Okay. With that, thank you so much, and we will catch you on our next flick.